Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark for today, Wednesday, the 18th day of March 2020. And of course, we're here every Wednesday evening with this program, which we believe has certainly carved its own niche in the landscape here in St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of talk radio and throughout the wider Caribbean as well. When we come here on a Wednesday evening, it is 2 hours of non-stop dialogue. We sometimes would have guests, and there are times when just the Honorable Mark Brantley would be here, and he can sit here and talk for 2 hours as well. So whether we have guests or we are here by ourselves, it is something that we believe we can handle for 2 hours without any advertisement, and that has been the case for the last decade and more. This evening we have a packed program. We have various persons coming through this evening, and as such we'll get started quickly. But before we get started, let me introduce my sidekick and co-host for tonight, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, who has been here for the past couple of weeks, and he loves coming and providing the company and the companionship around here. So Eric, welcome to On the Mark. Well, I say welcome to On the Mark. Well, let me just say it's good to have you here this evening once again.
Alexis, and good evening to all our listeners. It's always a pleasure to be here. Of course, to communicate with the folks in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and across the region and across the world. It's always a pleasure to be here on the Eastern Caribbean Spa House on the Mark. Of course, this is the show that everybody looks forward to on a Wednesday night, and of course we are always delighted to be here to share information with members of the general public, and of course for persons as well to call in. And so it's another beautiful Wednesday night here in Nevis. We've just had some lovely showers on the outside. And so we welcome all of our listeners in St. Kitts and Nevis across the region and across the world to another edition of On the Mark, Straight Talk, right here on the Eastern Caribbean Spa House.
Very good. Thank you very much, Eric. You seem as though you went on a long run. But like I said...
why I went on a long run? Because I'm fit.
Well, that takes us into why we're here to start off with this evening in terms of the first segment of the show. I'll introduce our two guests who will speak to you about why they're here. So let me introduce to the microphones Mr. David Walwyn from the Fit Wellness Center, and also Ms. Sheila James, who will be speaking to you shortly about why she's here as well too. So I'll turn over to you. Without asking any question, I'll give you the microphone to disseminate your information.
Okay, good evening everybody, and thank you for having us on your program this evening. So I'm here representing the National Weight Loss Program in association with the SKN Moves Nevis chapter. This is our second event. We launched October 2019 with the Half Island Road Relay. Sorry, I'm tired. And so we're now actively on the second event, which is a bike relay, which is going to happen this Sunday, 22nd of March. Start time 6 a.m., kicking off at 7 a.m. And I'm going to hand over to Dave, who's going to talk to you a little bit about why we're actually doing this activity.
Yeah, so Eric, I'm happy that you're here. By the way, good evening, to you, Eric. Access, good evening, and good evening to your listening public. So, Eric, as you remember, when we started this national weight loss campaign back in January, Honorable Hazel Brantley would have made some objectives for 2020, and we are supporting those objectives. And quite of them were, we wanted to lose 20,000 pounds island-wide by the end of this year. And so a lot of these activities that we're doing, the Half Island Road Relay and this one that's coming up on Sunday, is to create a level of activity to try to, get people excited about engaging in physical activity again. Because I've discovered that it's difficult to get people over that hump, and so you have to sort of make it easy for them. So this activity is one of many that we have planned for 2020. In addition to these activities that we're doing, of course, we are trying to do those gyms as well, Eric, and those community centers. And we want to try to saturate Nevis with a lot of health promotion initiatives. And the only way that we see that it can be sustainable is doing these kinds of activities. So this one is up on Sunday.
Sunday the 22nd of March.
Yeah. You want to give the route?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to start off at the TDC waterfront, the car park parking lot there. Then we cycle up Hunkins Drive. Then we swing past the Cholera Cemetery, past TDC Home Buildings, swing right at the Artisans Village, continue up the bypass road, down the pump road, over the roundabout, over to Long Point, a loop round, turn back on yourself, come all the way back down, past the cemetery, past Ram's supermarket, and then all the way back to the beginning, hand over to the next cyclist. It doesn't sound like a huge route, and there are some challenges, but I think it's going to be a really good race, a good relay. We have some highs and some lows, some inclines, downhills, some slight bends. The bikes that are going to be provided are from Winston Crook from Bike Nevis. He's sponsoring the actual event. And all the bikes are professional mountain bikes, and he will provide those with helmets. And each female that participates will get a T-shirt courtesy of Winston Crook's Bike Nevis company here, right here in Nevis.
Okay, but I honestly thought that it was around the island. Really.
No, with the road relay. Of course, both of you
relay.
took part in that, so you can testify how great that was. So you can imagine the bike relay. Now, we decided to keep it small because it's a pilot. If this is successful, we will then probably broaden the horizons, as it were, and hopefully have more people take part. We've only got a maximum of 40 places for this particular exercise because obviously traffic control, etc., was taken into consideration, and also the fact that most persons who are participating are not professional cyclists. This is about fun. It's about getting people active and getting them on the road.
So people had to register?
Yes. So the registration date officially ended yesterday, but we've extended it to Thursday, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. And the reason why we've been pressing people to come forward to register, obviously, because we need to take the heights so we can adjust the bikes on the day. That will cut out a lot of slacking time. And also the $20 that we're asking for is to go towards the medals, participatory medals. Can I just say a special thank you to Ricardo Keynes, who's the lawyer here. He's actually sponsoring the All Winners Trophy for the next 5 years. So we're hoping this is going to take off big time.
And the teams are made up of how many persons?
So if we have 40 persons, it'll be made up of 4s. If the numbers are less, then we reduce to 3s or 2s. So we can make a good race out of it.
Okay, I know, David, you said that the objective of these events and programs throughout this year is to try and lose or get persons collectively to lose 20,000 pounds. How are you gauging that, or how do you assess? What record keeping are you doing to ensure that we meet those targets or that objective?
Yeah, we have registrants, and right now it's about 2,700 registrants. And so the idea is every month, ideally, we would meet, and we will take the weight of everyone who signed up. So one is due, actually. We need to do one this month. So far, we had about 700 pounds right now. A person who has been in the National Weight Loss Campaign has lost weight.
That's pretty good.
We have already chiseled off
Yeah.
700 pounds.
700 pounds, and we have 3 months. So if we look at the laws of averages, we have some work to do.
We have a lot of work to
You
do.
know, the idea is you know, that's why it's important to get so many people involved, because if you that's really only about 10 pounds per person.
Per person.
Maybe 3,000 if you do the math. So it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. So the more persons you have contributing pounds, the quicker we meet that goal. I am a firm believer that we will meet that goal.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I'm looking at public, PR per se, and what is being done. I suppose in order to stimulate and to maintain that interest, you have to have some ongoing public relations, dissemination of information and programs being done on a weekly basis, and engaging the public and trying to bring that interest to the level where you know that even though you said £20,000, we probably end up with £40,000 being lost over the year, which would be a tremendous feat. So I believe that is your target, but what else can be done, or what else would you want to see happening to ensure that we get to a higher level than, because I want to lose some myself. You know, not too much though, but I feel like I want to lose a couple of pounds. But what are we doing, or what are you doing? Other than, I know this bike relay is one around the island, but it seemed like there was some time in between there. What else is
It's
being
the
done?
planning. So currently we have to do 6 activities this year. So we've just done this is the second one. The third one is going to be a huge one where we will engage private and public sectors to compete against each other. I'm not going to talk too much about that right now because I'm going to be trying to get some sponsors on board to support this, because this is a huge event which will probably span over 6 weeks because it's a knockout competition. But the more people we get from private and public competing, the more competitive it will be. The idea will be to bring in extra people to support that. So hopefully we'll get a herd of persons to take part in those activities. There's about, so that's the third one, and we're talking about a mountain climb too, which is going to be a great challenge. Yeah, we're looking at a mountain climb too.
Yeah, there's a lot of behind-the-scene things that are going on to support this national weight loss campaign in collaboration with SKN Moves. And so we do a lot of like wellness in the workplace talks where we go to various businesses. We have covered the spectrum of most organizations already. I think we've covered everybody, and we're going to be making that round again. Eric has been to a few of them with me as well. So we're going to be making that round again. So there's a lot of things that we're doing behind the scene. You know, we have developed a national weight campaign diet plan that is being disseminated as well, where a lot of people is getting a lot of success from. And that's where that 700 pounds has came from. We're doing a lot of
I'm
Yeah.
probably on the loop now.
Well, you haven't really get to a point, Eric. I mean, that's spoken to about. You got,
Well, Eric is a perfect
I
example.
got Doc Eric.
Thank
I'm
you.
telling you.
Perfect example.
He's losing too much weight.
Oh no, don't say that. But he is the perfect person to talk to about the experiences that he's gone through. Because, and I know you won't mind me saying, he used to be fluffy. He look at him. He looks
you
amazing.
know, and this is the beauty. This is the beauty is that
You can see it.
The program that we do, right, is that once you lose the weight, you keep it off. Because if you are carrying excess belly fat, you're what you call insulin resistant. And if you're insulin resistant, you're already in a pre-diabetic state. No question. You continue on that path, you will end up with diabetes, adult onset diabetes. And so what the program aims to do is remove the fat that is blocking your receptors, that is making you insulin resistant. So we work from the inside out. And so that's why Eric is able to maintain that weight, and I'm sure he's cheated a few times. but he's able to maintain that weight and keep it off. Because he's done the work. It's tough, and he will tell you.
It is tough, yes.
He will tell you it's tough. But once you have made that step, once you have gone through that 3 weeks, which is the toughest, it's easy sliding from there. Because a lot of the cravings that you'll generally have that controls your eating habits,
Right.
you just won't have them anymore.
Got you.
Yeah. I just want to add another thing also. You know, what we're aiming to do, Alexis, is really trying to create a fitness explosion, a health explosion like has never been seen before. You know, apart from all these activities that we're doing, Month and Sheila has been absolutely great in organizing these activities. The Wellness in the Workplace talks that we're doing. We're doing a lot of mini testimonials that we're being aired on TV and on radio as well. You know, the idea is to saturate the media with those folks who are achieve great success, and hopefully that will encourage others. I'm sure Eric, if you look at Eric, he has motivated a lot of people just by what he's done.
True.
A lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people is looking at him. Another thing that we're doing, we also, I just want to add this very quickly, and I like to make an appeal to your listeners that anyone who signs up while we're here, if they're going to sign up while we're here, Sheila, we're going to be giving them a free ticket where they can win one night stay at the Golden Rock for two.
Dinner for two.
That's the first place prize. Dinner for two at
Sunshines.
And then a 1 month free membership with personal training at the gym. These raffle tickets we have in support of Tony Nesbitt, who is going to be going to Barbados, Colombia, and St. Martin in July and August to compete. And we're supporting her because she's going to be probably the first IFBB pro in the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis Bikini Pro. And so this is in support of Tony Nesbitt.
Tony, she went off to a competition in Angola, I think.
And she came in third place. She came in third place.
Yeah.
So she was close to getting her pro. And the only reason why the girl beat her out is because we were working on her posing. It wasn't about how she looked, it was about her posing. So she is on her way to becoming the first IFBB pro in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So we want everybody to rally behind her. So if your callers are listening and you want to support Tony, and you want to win a chance to win a one night stay at the Golden Rock for two, dinner for two at Sunshine, and a 1 month free membership, I'm happy to leave a few tickets with you guys that you can give away.
Okay. Okay, so basically we want to wrap up shortly since we have a few more persons waiting, but we want to...
I just want to say my thank yous to the sponsors. So,
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? So a special thank you to Ricardo Keynes for the sponsorship of the trophy, to Kurt Swanson at Food Centre who's providing all the water for the event, and by the way, the 22nd of March is World Water Day, so it's perfect. We're also going to be having a chugging competition, water chugging competition in the car park, so anybody who's floating around, come in, you can win some prizes. Also, special thank you to Winston Crook for the bikes and the helmets and the t-shirts for the female entrance. Special thank yous to Gabriella's, Cool Blends, Bodies and Old Cafe. They're going to be providing light refreshments, and of course to Bobby and Toby who's providing PA and sound for the whole event, and of course the committee, because without a committee you don't have these events, and to our cyclists. So, and we want people to just come out and support it.
How long are you expecting it to last, Sheila?
It's probably going to be about 3 hours. If I'm in it, it'll take about 5. No, about 3 hours tops, we hope. Yeah. Also on the police and Red Cross, of course, I forgot them too. They're going to be part of the whole event too.
Okay, very good. So we want to encourage the general public here in the island of Nevis to participate in the this national weight loss program, where you're having an event on Sunday starting at 7 a.m. Of course, you gather at 6 a.m. so that all of the necessary work can be done, adjustment of bikes and the like. So that, but I certainly wish I could have participated, but I'm a regular church attendant.
That's okay.
And it would be a shame for me to be riding around while church is ongoing, and I wouldn't feel good. But if you want to have it another time, on another day...
Well, we'll make sure we do that for
honestly
next year.
Because I am an avid bike rider. I can ride bike from since I was a little tot, so I wanted to show my skills on Sunday, but unfortunately that wouldn't be the case. But I'm certain you'll have the required amount of persons. You're looking for 40 persons tops, and I'm hoping that you won't have any difficulties in getting that amount of persons registered, and the event will be a success without any injuries.
Thank you. We hope
any
so.
Accidents.
Yeah.
And hopefully the weather will be nice and good as it was today. That will be fantastic for this event, and I wish you well with all of your objectives throughout the year. And indeed, you will always have a platform here, or some microphones here to disseminate your information anytime.
Thank you.
You will want to do that once On The Mark is on a Wednesday evening. So I wish you well, and of course you want to just speak quickly again about the event for those who might have just joined us.
Okay.
You wrap up, and then we'll move on to the next
No
segment.
problem. So we're here to talk about the first bike relay in Nevis. It's under the SKN Moves Nevis chapter in collaboration with the National Weight Loss Programme. We are hoping to have 40 participants battle it out for first, second and third prize. It's all about losing weight. It's all about being fit and healthy, and we just want everybody who's out there, if you're not participating, to just come out and support those that are. Thank you very much.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you very much, Sheila, and thank you very much, David. And thanks for coming. And as I said before, all the best and all the success on Sunday. And hopefully all of the elements would fall into place so that you'll have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to On the Mark. And of course, we're here every Wednesday evening from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we just had our first segment for this evening, where we would have entertained Sheila and also David, who were promoting that event they're having on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. and that is a bike relay, and they gave the route as well from the TDC car park or on the waterfront down the Samuel Hunkins Drive down to TDC and then up towards the bypass road and also over to the roundabout, then over to Long Point, make a loop or turn around and then back down past the public cemetery and Rams back into Charlestown and back down to the waterfront. So that is the event that is planned for Sunday morning. Eric, would you be a part of that?
Unfortunately, I would not be a part of it, Alexis. I probably might be a spectator, but I would not be a part of that event on Sunday. Of course, we were a part of the first event,
Yes,
that
yes.
half round the island walk relay that we had some months back, and of course that went extremely well. But I will not be a part of this one on Sunday, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we just encourage persons to be a part of it. Well, like I said earlier, when we started, we have various segments this evening. That was the first segment, and of course, that was health related as well.
Yes.
Because fitness and wellness is all about the entire body and keeping you in shape and making sure that you have a healthy lifestyle. Healthy diet, healthy lifestyle, and all the like. So that was part of it, and we're still going to stick with the health aspect of why we're here this evening. Of course, later on we'll speak to persons from the Ministry and Department of Agriculture who would come in somewhere around 9 p.m. this evening. So this evening, it's all about health and wellness. It's all about the most current and recent issue that we've been dealing with and coping with here on the island of Nevis, not in a direct way in terms of having cases to deal with, but actually the dissemination of information and the talk that is out there. It's all about COVID-19, which is the coronavirus, which is something that we have been talking about for many weeks, many weeks, but the discussions have intensified because, of course, throughout the world, every country is dealing with this particular virus in some way or the other, whether it is by way of closing down their borders, treating persons who have been affected, or even preparing for the inevitable, we say. And we said that not with any gleefulness, but also we are saying it because it is something, just like a hurricane. We always say, prepare for the best, but expect the worst. I think that's how we normally say when it comes to the hurricane season. So this is one of those situations where we're trying to prepare, hope for the best. Sorry, thanks for the correction. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Yes. So that is what we will be discussing here this evening for the next 45 minutes. There about that is the all pertinent information regarding the coronavirus. We know here currently in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, we do not have a reported case as yet, and we are hoping that that will stay, or it would stay that way for a very long time to come. But we're still thinking that we may be dealing with this issue in a much more in-depth way in the not too distant future, because we are part of a global network where people move, people travel, and of course we do not know what the eventuality will be for over the next couple of weeks. But I will say to you that we have two persons here who are more, experienced, or have more expertise and more information that I can divulge here this evening. Eric, you may have more than I do, but I want to learn from those who have the information. So I want to welcome two persons from the health, public health department, and also someone from the Disaster Management Agency. I am speaking of Mr. Brian Dyer, who is the director of the Nevis Management Department, and also Mrs. Nadine Carty-Keynes, who is a public health officer.
Coordinator, Health Promotion Unit.
Coordinator of the Health Promotion Unit. Well, I want to welcome you both. I won't be saying much. I think I'll leave most of the information that you want to share with us to both of you, because I am learning myself, and of course you're the ones who have been attending all of the necessary symposium and all of the conferences that has been dealing with this particular virus, and as such you're the ones who we want to learn from, and I believe the general public will be comforted by hearing your voice, since you're the voice of authority. So I turn over to you. You'll introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the meat of the discussion. Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having us here. And I'm Nadine Carty-Keynes. I'm the coordinator of Health Promotion Units. My immediate boss is Dr. Judy Nisbet, who I hope will arrive shortly, as she's the medical expert, and I can only deal with material relating to communication. However, as you've indicated, we are part of some of what is going on at certain levels involved, so I can share information in relation to the coronavirus in terms of what it is, prevention methods especially, and just to encourage persons to prepare but stay calm, don't panic. You know, the measures taken are totally in your hands if you follow some of the tips that will be provided here tonight.
Okay.
To reduce your risk, of course.
Sure.
Good
Okay,
evening
Brian.
to the listening public. My name is Brian Dye. I'm the director of the Nevis Disaster Management Department. I'm here in partnership with the Ministry of Health with regards to the coronavirus and our response strategy, our preparatory actions with regards to the coronavirus. And we also, at the disaster management, are looking forward to our preparatory actions for the upcoming hurricane season as well. So, you know, we have lots in store, and it will be an interesting evening.
Okay, so Nadine, we can start with you, because this is health related, and of course we have been following the news, and we have an idea, or the information is out there as to where it started and what has transpired since it started, and the impact it has had throughout the world, so to speak. Now, we want to stick and maintain our focus on the local, or stick to a local perspective in terms of what we're doing locally, what to expect, what we're going to do to mitigate some of its impact, and you can just give us a general idea as to how persons in the general public can deal with these situations if they were to arise. So I'll leave it up to you to disseminate as much as you can.
Okay, thank you. Just to start with the basis, I know most persons, if not everybody, have been exposed one way or the other in terms of information relating to what we are now calling officially COVID-19. Before it was called a novel coronavirus, because it's a new type of coronavirus in the family of coronaviruses. This new respiratory illness was discovered in December of 2019, and it is a respiratory illness that is transmitted by droplets from an infected person to another person. And persons who may be exposed and become infected may develop first mild symptoms, which may include cough, fever, difficulty breathing, and can develop into severe symptoms such as pneumonia and respiratory disease. However, exposure normally happens in terms of being symptomatic between 2 to 14 days, so it's a longer period for symptoms to manifest. Persons who are more likely to become seriously ill are persons who are over the age of 60 and persons who have pre-existing conditions. When we say pre-existing conditions, we're talking about persons who may have diabetes, hypertension, cancer, or HIV. Persons with immune compromised systems, they may be more at risk to develop serious illnesses. Majority of persons, have we seen worldwide, indicate that about 80% have what we call mild disease. You may have, a dry cough, or you may have, less common with this is like sore throat and stuff, but they do happen. So those are some of the mild diseases persons experience, about 80% of persons who get coronavirus. Now, currently there are no vaccines and no specific treatment in terms of, say, give you a coronavirus pill specific for that. It's the management of your symptoms, so fever reducer prescribed by the doctor to control fever, etc. For persons with serious conditions, they may be placed on oxygen or provide with ventilation support. What we are focusing on, especially from the Health Promotion Unit, is to share the prevention information so persons are armed with information. We say knowledge is power, and in this case it is. The information provided should help you feel comfortable, should help you not to panic. Just take the information and practice. And one of those information we're sharing is to wash your hands often. Wash your hands before you eat, wash your hands after using the bathroom, wash your hands after coming from outside, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, and wash them thoroughly. Hand washing is a technique we have shared on our Facebook page, a WHO video on how to wash your hands properly. It should last 40 to 60 seconds and includes using clean running water and soap. So wash your hands often. The other way is to make sure the information you're getting is from your reliable sources. So you want to make sure that you tap into sources such as WHO, which is the World Health Organization, CDC, the Center for Disease Control, PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, CAFA, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, and of course your ministries of health here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We've been on the ground, we've been on every platform there is to find. We've been doing sessions, we've had a symposium. Your Chief Medical Officer of Health and the Medical Officer of Health on Nevis have been on the ground getting information out. Our educators, our nurses, doctors, we're trying to educate as much persons as possible so that you know what you need to do. And the task, it sounds simple. I know I've heard, oh, you're just saying wash hand, but yes, washing your hands is one of your best protective measures. And also, you want to cover your cough and your sneeze. Remember I said that the virus is mostly transmitted through droplets. So you want to cover your cough and your sneeze, and there's a technique. You cover your cough and your sneeze with a tissue, and you dispose of it right away in a bin, preferably a closed bin, but realities, you throw it away, and then you wash your hand or you sanitize your hand with an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If no tissue is available, we want you to use the Flex Elbow, preferably with sleeve, but realities again, anything to minimize droplets. So hand sanitizer is a good way. An alcohol-based hand sanitizer with 62% to 95% ethyl alcohol in it is good as a substitute if you can't get to soap and water. But of course, our preferred method is soap and water. So buy the soap, stock up on your soap, and wash your hands often. Leave the toilet paper alone.
I was just about to say.
Leave the toilet paper alone. Stock up on your hand soap and wash your hands often. Practice hand washing with your family, with your friends in your school, in the workplace. Make sure you have those supplies. Those are the supplies you want to make sure that you have in terms of the prevention methods. What else can we do? How can we act? How can we stay active? Well, avoid close contact with people who have flu-like symptoms. So we're talking social distancing. This word has become new to the vocabulary of a lots of persons. So social distancing is not a discriminatory stuff. It's just what you need to do in a situation like this. So you want to keep your distance. So Mr. Dye is over there, and I'm right over here, right? So we just edge it a little bit further. 3 feet to 6 feet apart, right, Mr. Dye? Right. Social distancing. You want to minimize, the hugging and the way we normally greet each other. In this instance, so you want to, a big wave with a hi, so people see that you're happy to see them and you're not, discriminating in any way. You can do, I've seen the Wakanda movement to say hi. I mean, that's cute. Whatever, just a nice way to greet persons instead of the very close contact. You want to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unclean hands. Our hands are always busy doing something, touching a surface. So you want to keep your hands out your face. That is the quickest way you can get droplets that are on the surface into your body. These are openings, right? So contaminated surfaces that has the droplets on it and have the virus is another way to get infected, right? So you want to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unclean hands. Wash your hands before you touch your face. Yeah. Avoid sharing cups, plates, and other personal items, and disinfect all surfaces. Now we've disseminated across the NIA. We've shared with some of the business places, and we'll continue as we're going through the process, how to prepare your workplace. It's on the website. It's on WHO's website, how to prepare your workplace. But I shouldn't have to tell you that. You disinfect surfaces often. So when we're finished here tonight, I would suspect that the crew at Von Radio will disinfect this surface here, right? So we have to disinfect. You can use whatever bleach, mix it 1 part of bleach to 9 parts of water. You don't have to get all fancy. Or you can, yes, he's showing me the Lysol. Very good. Or you can buy the fancy one in the can or in the spray bottles. Whatever you use, just disinfect and disinfect often. Disinfect surfaces that are high trafficked, your doorknobs, your cell phones especially. We have them all the time and have them in some weird places. Disinfect those. Disinfect your refrigerator doors, your light switches, your workstation. In the workplaces, in the businesses, they need to disinfect all surfaces that people come in contact with often. So they need to put a routine together where they increase that. So those are some of the measures. And another way we can act, and I'm sure Dr. Nisbet will be able to expand on that, is that if you have traveled to areas where COVID-19 is circulating or have been in contact with someone who has it, that is COVID-19, and you experience fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, like I've mentioned some of the symptoms before, seek medical care. However, stay at home and call ahead. Do not show up at the doctor's office, the health center, or the hospital without calling ahead and receiving instruction from the medical team. And I'm sure doctors will be able to explain that some more. In terms of what we're doing on the ground in trying to get the information out, we've done several PSAs. We've had them on TV, radio, our Facebook page, Health Promotion Unit. We now have a dedicated Nevis COVID-19 Facebook page, so you can go on that and like it, and you can get updates every day. We have Health Promotion Facebook page, Synkits, and you have Nevis Health Promotion also. We have done a symposium where we did 3 sessions throughout the day. Persons could have shown up that day and get information and ask questions of the panel. So we did some of that. We have been doing sensitization sessions in the schools, in the business places, with different sections of the community, farmers groups, etc., etc. And we are continuing that. And this is being on the Mark tonight is also another way of getting information out. So I've said a mouthful.
Yeah,
I
that's
take a
fine.
sip of water. In the meantime, stay hydrated. Make sure you boost your immune system by eating fresh fruits and vegetables, more dark green leafy vegetables preferably. Boost your immune system. Make sure you eat correctly. Stay hydrated. These are other ways you can help, boost up your system to fight anything, coronavirus, flu, whomever. So that's another way. And please wash your hands. If you don't know how to wash your hands properly, oh, we're live? Yes. So can I do a quick demonstration?
Sure.
Of course.
Okay, great. So, washing your hands, it's simple, but you need to practice it. So we're going to pretend that I just turn on the tap. So water is on. I wet my hands. Psh, I get some soap, a good amount. I need a good lather. So I need to rub my hands to work up that lather, right? And then I'm going to go in between like this. Yeah? And then I'm going to do the back of my hand. And Dr. Nisbet is judging me, so I'll do the back of my hand. And then we're going to interlock. And then we'll flip it and do the other one. And then you're going to do the thumb and the thumb. And then you're going to take your fingers like this and you'll make some circular motion because you want the soap to get under the nails. Under the nails are very dirty, huh? And then you do the same thing for the other nail. And then you want to rinse your hand facing down so the water drips down and not like this so it runs this way, right? So you want to turn your hand down. And then when all the soap and everything is off, you dry your hands with a clean paper towel or hand towel that only you're using, right? And then you're dry. If you're in a situation where you can't open the door, you take that napkin to turn off the tap and open the door and then discard. Then your hands are clean. And it's the same process for hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer is not bam and you're done. No, it's the same thing but shorter. So you get hand sanitizer enough so it wets all of your hand and you get that going and you go in between, back, back, same motion, bam, bam, until it dries on your hand and then you're good. If when you're washing your hands and you don't dry your hands are not washed and you have to start right over. Again, wash your hands, follow the steps. You can find the steps on our Facebook page, our Instagram, our YouTube channel, and I think they're also on the NIA website. So you can follow those steps. If you need a demonstration, call us, we'll come. Because we want persons to wash their hands. Thank you.
Just before you move on, Nadine, you've given quite a mouthful tonight, and I want to commend you all, Dr. Nisbet and your entire team, Ministry of Health, for the fantastic work that you all have been doing, I mean, in terms of educating the public and that sort of thing. And you've outlined stuff there tonight that I wasn't even aware that you all have been doing. But there's people out there who are still saying that you all are not doing anything. What do you say to those people?
Well, if persons feel like we're not doing, we welcome any suggestion as to how we can maximize communicating with anybody in the community. Our job is to reach as many persons as we can. Bear in mind we're a small team, and it's a lot right now, and we're trying our best to get to everyone. Once call, we're there, we schedule, we come. I for the most part, I have a very dedicated team at the Health Promotion Unit, and I have full support from the Ministry of Health. I have full support here. So we're on the go from early to late, right? So we welcome suggestions if someone wants, and we welcome partnerships. You can assist.
Sure.
Call us, ask us how we're doing.
Okay, I want to welcome Dr. Judy Nisbet, who did call earlier and said she was dealing with certain situations, and I want to welcome Dr. Nisbet. Well, of course, you are the expert and you have the expertise, and I'm certain you'd have been listening to Nadine. I'm sure you have much more to add to that. And I know last night there were folks here from the Alexandra Hospital who were disseminating information, and I was reminded part of ensuring that you're having effective communication is to repeat. Because that's how. I just said he didn't hear some of the things that you would have imparted just now before, but I would have heard some of it before, and it's a joy hearing it again. because of course it's a reminder to me, and it's also a reminder to the general public out there. So Dr. Nisbet, you can certainly remind us as well about some of the things that Nadine perhaps may have not said thus far, but also if there is anything new, you also would have a microphone to disseminate as well. So I'll leave it up to you. We won't disturb you.
Okay, thank you for having me and the team. Well, there are a couple of things. Well, Nadine did a very good job. So she told us all the things that we ought to do. However, what I want to get into right now is another aspect. Basically, you know that we have had travel advisories, and there are persons who are coming into the country whom we are not restricting, we are not closing our borders, but we are welcoming. Persons can come. However, when they do come, we are asking that there are certain steps that they take. So the countries that we have travel advisories for right now are China, Italy, Iran, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, Japan, and we have recently added United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Spain. And these are areas that have high numbers of persons, of positive cases, and also there is some local transmission or community spread. So persons who are coming from countries with community spread, we are asking when they come that they be quarantined. And persons are a little unsure of the difference between the terms quarantine and isolation. So these persons are coming and we screen at the border. So that is one of our, that's one of the things that we're doing to ensure that, to prevent the virus from reaching our shores. We screen at the borders, right? So we at all the ports of entry, we do that. And you would have heard that we have added staff, nursing staff at the Vance Amber International Airport, for example. So when persons come in, they're screened, and screening means that they're asked certain questions. So they're asked about their travel history, and they're asked about their symptoms, if they have any symptoms. Once they do not have any symptoms, they're asked to be quarantined. And quarantine means that they need to stay home for 14 days. They are not ill. Those persons are not ill. However, we need to monitor them to ensure that they do not become ill. Okay? So we ask them to, every day we call and we ask about their symptoms. So if they start developing any symptoms, we know, okay, if they start developing respiratory symptoms, then we know then that this may be COVID-19. And so we can get on top of it right away. And we can test those persons, isolate them, and whether it's home, isolate them at home, or we isolate them at hospital, depends on how bad they are, right? If they're very sick, then they will have to go to hospital. If they're not very sick, they will be at home. So I just wanted to clear up quarantine and isolation, because people are getting a bit concerned about these two terms. So quarantine, when persons are quarantined, they are well, they are fine, okay? And we just ask them to restrict their movements, stay within their house, their property, and we will check on you every day for 14 days to ensure that you do not develop symptoms. Once that 14 days have passed, then they can go back in.
So there are indeed persons who are quarantined at this time, because people are coming in, you said,
Yes.
from various parts.
Yes, so persons are quarantined on Nevis. To this point, right now in quarantine we have 30 persons.
30.
So we're monitoring them daily with a phone call, right? And they are also given information when they come in. There's a number that they can call, and there is a card that tells the symptoms that they should be looking for. And if they develop these symptoms, call this number right away. And as Nadine was saying, we stress that you call ahead. Call before you come in so that we can prepare for you. Okay. Now, if they develop symptoms while they are quarantined, now they call ahead, and we would either go to them and visit them, do a house visit, or it depends on how bad they are, they come in. They are now isolated. So quarantine now changes to isolation. So isolation would be for persons who are sick. And we ask them to do more or less the same things that they do when they're quarantined. So some of the things that we ask persons who are quarantined to do is to separate themselves. So they separate themselves from the rest of the household because they might be quarantined in their house with their family. So we ask them to stay in their bedrooms, limit their
Contact.
with others, find something inside of the house that they must enjoy something. So they would have access to the internet, they can watch movies and so forth, entertain themselves, but separate themselves from the rest of the family. And most people would do that because they care about their family members. So they won't want to jeopardize their health, right? We ask them to do all of the things that Nadine said. Cover your cough if you start to cough, cover your sneeze, and no visitors. Call your friends, video call your friends. You can stay all of the time on the telephone, and that's how you reach out to your friends and your family. And no sharing of your utensils.
If I were to ask, though, in extreme situations where person is quarantined and refuse to abide by what is expected of them, what do you do? Those are extreme situations where persons may just challenge the whole process. Because you'll find that we're human beings, and not everyone would conform to what they are asked to do. Yeah. So do you have any remedies or any proposed remedies in a situation like those? Because you'll have to solicit the help of someone in that case.
We will have to solicit the help of police, of course. We would have to. This is where the Quarantine Act now would come into play. So there's certain. The Quarantine Act allows us, and the regulations allow us to then. There's some penalties, so there's a fine, and there's actual jail time. Okay, for persons who break this law.
I suppose it might be wise to have. I want to say have that published or printed and put out there, because the thing is, if they normally say desperate times call for desperate measures, and if it is someone is quarantined and they're accustomed to, this is my daily routine where I partake in such activity or do certain things, and I'm being restricted now, the human being will just revolt and rebel against that, and you just want to make sure that individual do not create difficulties for the larger populace. So that is why I'm saying we have to be able to put these measures in place, publish these things, so that at least anyone, if the situation arises, will know what they're up against in the event. I'm just being frank here, because once we are to get to that particular plateau where there are persons quarantined and there are persons who are not conforming, we want to be able to protect the entire island of Nevis, and we can't jeopardize other persons' well-being as a result of someone being anti what we're trying to accomplish. So that is just me, Alexis Jeffers, thinking
Yes.
that way.
I mean, so far persons have been compliant and they understand. They see what's happening in the world. They realize it's a pandemic, and they have been compliant. They have been quite good about it. However, maybe it's a good idea for us to publish the act, maybe on the website, so that on our Facebook page, so that it's readily accessible and persons know, that there are penalties.
Dr. Nisbet, I'm so happy that you're here tonight to clarify this information with regards to quarantine, because there has been a lot of people out there peddling this misinformation that because people are quarantined that they have the virus, and it's very unfortunate. I mean, this quarantine thing is really not new to me, because I spent all of my work life in agriculture, and I know when people bring animals in, the animals have to be quarantined. The animals are not sick, but they have to remain in an area where they're not allowed to be in contact with other animals, and they have to remain there for a particular period of time. And we're living in an age now where everybody can read and everybody can go on the internet and get the information. And so it is unfortunate that people hear that people are quarantined and people just make an alarm, said the virus is in Nevis. There are no confirmed cases, but you have to always have to be taking pains to tell people, listen, if people are self-quarantined, that doesn't mean that they are sick. And I believe sometimes people know the information, but people just want to make mischief. And so I'm so happy that you're here to clarify that information with regards to quarantine, and you can be totally well, but you are in quarantine.
Yes. We always stress quarantine is for persons who are not ill. They are not ill, they are well. It's just that we are monitoring them, and we have a particular period to monitor them for 14 days. And once they have no symptoms in those 14 days, we are fine. They can then go about their normal activities. If they become ill during that time that we are monitoring them, then we use another term. This is isolation.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Now, Dr. Nisbet, I wanted to ask another question. Nadine spoke about the social distancing. Of course, that's a new term now. Everybody is latching on to. But people have been questioning why social distancing if we do not have any confirmed cases. How do you justify the social distancing, the no handshakes, the no hugging, the no close contact, if there is indeed no confirmed case on the island? Why the social distancing?
Now, what I would say to that is, how I justify it is this way. It is, yes, we don't have any confirmed cases, but it is a practice that we want you to get accustomed to. Okay? Not that when there's a case, then we start educating persons about how to distance themselves from persons. Persons may be coughing and sneezing, right? And we speak about staying away 6 feet. That is social distancing also, right? But they may just have the flu. So it is a practice that we really want persons to get accustomed to doing, so that
I suppose the old adage comes into play. Prevention is better than
thank you.
cure.
Yeah.
But Dr. Nisbet, in terms of our health facilities and so forth, are we comfortable or confident, in the preparations that have been made in the event? We're dialoguing with the general public, so the general public would want to know. We have been talking, yes, but are our actions matching our discourse and all of the training that has gone into all of the persons who will be exposed to these situations?
So we have done the training. We have exposed the clinical staff to, and the ancillary staff also, to training on infection prevention and control. So they know how to handle certain things, even waste material, and this has been going on over time. However, we are just strengthening our infection prevention and control training now. We have trained clinical staff in infection prevention and control, and also in clinical management. There are courses online that staff members have been encouraged to take. And then we have been stockpiling. So we have increased our stocks of personal protective equipment. We have increased our stock of medications, antivirals, IV fluids, things like fever reducers, paracetamol, because the treatment is supportive care. So, there's no thing specific. So we are stocking up on all of those things. Antibiotics in case there is a secondary infection. And we have taken the step of deciding to have what we call a flu clinic, so that we can channel persons with respiratory illnesses to a particular place so that they don't go and mix with the other patients who may not have respiratory symptoms. So those things we are putting into place, and we have identified where we are going to isolate persons, and we have decided, to purchase more ventilators because, persons will need critical care. And so we have been readying ourselves. We are still in the preparedness phase, or some we can say in the readiness phase, because at any time we can have a case. So we have been preparing over time, and we'd like to say now that we are ready to respond in the event that.
So let us look at a scenario. A case is identified, the necessary steps and protocol that will be, implemented at that point in time. If we were to just look at it, we're just looking at it from a hypothetical standpoint, because and I don't want anybody to start to get too concerned or frightened at all. But I'm just saying, if a case is identified, what do you do? Or what do we do? What are the steps that will be taken just to put it in, or crystallize it, so to speak, for the general public will understand?
Okay, so a case is identified. If the case is identified off-site of the hospital, there's a particular team that will go to that person. There's a particular ambulance that has been identified, okay? And then that would be the ambulance earmarked for doing that. Going to get persons who are ill with coronavirus. We also would know ahead, hopefully, that this person has respiratory symptoms, is highly suspected to have coronavirus, and we can then, instead of exposing a lot of persons, we would then channel the person straight to isolation. Okay, and the staff that is taking care of that patient would be the staff that would be taking care of that patient over time. So
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay. I suppose that, in a nutshell, without going any further with it, I understand. Hopefully, the general public understands that as well. Because
I try to
I
be
suppose
simple.
there are some things you just can't go too deep into, but
Right,
you know
right,
exactly
right,
what
right.
to do if
It's
in
quick.
this
It's quick.
situation, right?
The idea is identifying cases quickly, quick, rapid isolation and management.
Amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have with us Mr. Dyer. He has been out of the conversation since he came. Brian, you may want to add anything to the discussion or bring something new to the table.
Hi, good night. The role of disaster management, we are a coordinating agency, and even though we find ourselves being administratively managed by the Ministry of Agriculture, we are a creature and we function as a member of the national security. So we are responsible for all hazards that could impact the island. The Ministry of Health, as this is a health-related hazard, is what we call the SME, subject matter experts. So they play a critical role with regards to the managing of the hazard. But as disaster management, we are the overarching agency that deals with the coordination and response mechanism for all hazards. So if the island is impacted in any significant way, the disaster management would have to stand up the national EOC or the Nevis EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, and have all the coordination pass through the national mechanism. We have also the regional mechanism that we can lean on for assistance, and we have been having meetings. Matter of fact, I left one meeting to come to this activity, so we are also listening to our neighbors with the issues they're having, and some of their agencies don't have a good gel as what we have here in St. Kitts Nevis with all our frontline agencies, customs, immigration, police, etc. So there was some confusion with regards when the first case showed up. We have been ahead of the ball game. We started our meetings early, and kudos to the CMO and Dr. Nisbet, who have brought the teams together, and we have now strengthened the defense at our borders, both A and C, and we have identified sites for quarantine and isolation. We have continued with the training aspect and coordination aspect. Dr. Nisbet alluded to the acquisition of additional supplies, but critically, though, we have seen the revision of the pandemic disaster plan. We were in the process of updating the Nevis disaster plan with several of the hazards. So this revision for the pandemic plan is timely, so we will be able to better manage the resources and the response mechanism going forward.
Okay. Well, Dr. Nisbet, I don't think this program this evening is a decision-making program per se, but of course, Nadine would have spoke about the distance and
Social distancing.
social distance. There's some huge activities that are on the calendar to be held here on the island of Nevis. We're not making any decisions tonight, but of course, by tomorrow, I do believe, after all of the information is processed and discussed some more, then we'll have to determine where do we go. But based on what we have been talking about here this evening, it makes it even more important for us to come to some decisions here on the island of Nevis as to where we'll go and what we'll do. But like I said, it's not a decision-making discussion.
And you will hear from us because we had our first task force meeting this afternoon, and those were discussed. So our recommendations will come.
Welcome.
And not to cut off the doctor, but it is also being discussed right across the region. A number of activities has been curtailed, so you will get the recommendations from the good doctor tomorrow.
Okay. And what they say, a word to the wise is no, but I'm not making light of it, but some serious decisions would have to be made here shortly, which would impact the island in a significant way. We've already been impacted from external forces, yeah? And internally we have to make some critical decisions that will certainly... And it's all being done to protect our citizens and to make sure that at least if there is any hint of this virus being in our region or in our island, we are able to react or act as decisively and as quickly as possible so as to eliminate any difficulties that can arise. And that is why I hinted to the fact that decision making will have to be a part of the process come tomorrow or immediately after, and I can leave it there, but the general public will certainly hear accordingly from the leader of the island of Nevis, the Premier of Nevis, that is the Honourable Mark Brantley, shortly with respect to that, because we have to. We cannot be isolated from Antigua and other countries or islands thereby who are taking these decisions or making these decisions. We have to eventually come on board with all our decisions as well to make sure.
Let me just ask Dr. Nisbet. Sorry, I'm picking on you so much, Dr. Nisbet. But you're the expert here. Every day you see all these different information, you see these different data and so on, and the argument is out there as well, because there's so many different arguments, right? That COVID-19 is not going to cause as many deaths as other pandemics that we've had before. and it seems as though the evidence is there. But because of the social media, because of the way the media is playing it up, some people tend to believe that worldwide that people are panicking and people are overreacting. What do you say to that?
Okay. Persons need to take the COVID-19 pandemic seriously. So I don't want them to think that, they just should brush it off. However, it is true that it is not as bad as past pandemics. It is, well, SARS wasn't a pandemic, MERS wasn't a pandemic, but even though they infected less persons, the fatality rate was so much higher. With COVID-19, it has infected so many more persons. 184,134 confirmed cases up to now, almost hitting 200,000. 7,000 deaths. However, the death rate then is about 2 to 3%, right? And compared to SARS, 10%, MERS, 35%. So, yes, that's 7,000 lives. And so we just can't discard that and say, it's not important. It is 7,000 lives, although it's only 3% of deaths. So persons need to take it seriously, yes, but to realize that 80% of persons would have mild disease, okay, and 20% would have more severe disease. 15% or so will have severe disease, and then 5% will be critical. So persons need to take it seriously, but to realize also that most persons will have mild disease, and persons are recovering, right? So up to now, there are 79,000 persons who have recovered, and the others who have not recovered yet, they are in the process of recovering, right? So they're in that 2-week period or that 3-week period of recovering. So.
Well, I'm happy you mentioned that as well, because we are not hearing about persons recovering. All we are hearing about the deaths. So that needs to be a part of the mix of the conversation as well.
We try to mention it.
Yes.
But, other persons choose to forget.
Well, I would say, irrespective of the amount of persons who have died or infected in some way, I believe the fallout thus far is that significant for us to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Because the economic fallout is there, the social and all sorts of fallout is there from this particular virus. So I want to look at that side of it to make sure that we are protecting ourselves around it, so that whatever impact there is, if it's going to be great, let's not make it greater by ignoring it or refusing to act accordingly. And that is why it's important that we conduct these particular sessions where we're having discussions regarding it, and also providing all of the information and asking persons to adhere to the information that is being disseminated. Because even with you, Nadine, washing your hands, these are things that we learned when we were little boys and little girls. We have, we have strayed away from it to some extent, so you're bringing us back. Let us get back to basics.
Correct.
And that is the bottom line. So I want to say that we expected to have you until 9 o'clock, but it's now 9:15 because we have another group of folks who are outside there from the Department and Ministry of Agriculture. But I want to say, if you are asked to come back tomorrow night, please come. If you're asked to come back Friday night, please come. Even if you say the same thing over and over again, it is about getting the information out and making sure that our people, persons out there being bombarded with the information. And those who said there isn't anything being said and done, I believe, well, they're just creating mischief as far as I'm concerned, because I've been hearing you, I've been seeing emails, I've been seeing flyers, and of course, last night persons were here, and I believe last week, Thursday, was it last week, Thursday? on government at work? I
No,
believe.
last week Thursday was
That
agriculture.
was sometime
That
before.
was agriculture? Oh, okay. But I am satisfied that the information is getting out. And tomorrow there'll be more information again. And I want to thank you at least for coming. Brian, you didn't get a chance to say much tonight, but the hurricane season is upon us, which is another situation that we have to deal with shortly. So you'll get many more times to come back, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
well-
I want to thank the three of you for coming, Dr. Nisbet, Nadine, and Brian.
Looks like
for
Brian
coming.
had something else to say.
Yeah. Brian had
I was
something- oh,
I
sorry.
was gonna say tomorrow is the scheduled the regional tsunami exercise, but because of the impact of the COVID across the region, we have cancelled the mass evacuation from the coastal areas.
Okay.
So we will just be testing the communication aspect between the disaster management and the police departments, and also disaster management and the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. That
So
will-
we'll hear some sounds around Charlestown at some point.
you might hear this fire department with their siren, but there will be no mass evacuation tomorrow.
Okay, okay. And let me just thank the general public for participating in the past, because you had one, I believe, last year, sometime last year around this time.
Yes, every
Yeah?
year is in March. Yes.
Which is March, yes. And I think there was huge participation throughout the island,
Yes.
from schools and social groups and NGOs and so forth. So I want to thank the Division Public for their continued participation. Even though it's not as big this year as last year, we expect to continue. And there are other programs
Activities,
and
yes.
activities you plan to have throughout this year, which you'll inform the public about. So I want to thank the three of you for coming. Dr. Nisbet, Nadine, Kathy Keynes, and Brian Dyer for coming out this evening. And indeed, irrespective of what, the information was well received by me and by Eric
Of
and
course.
by the entire general public, I'm sure. So we want to thank you and appreciate your effort. And I know you're very tired as you are. So go home and get some rest and be back up tomorrow to continue this fight. Yeah?
It's always nice to have you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Make
Thanks.
sure wash your hands.
Yes. Thank you very
Ladies and
much.
gentlemen, you're listening to On the Mark, and of course, we have had our second segment for tonight. Earlier in the evening, we would have had Mr. David Walwyn and also Sheila James, and they were talking about the hosting of a bike relay on Sunday morning, the 22nd of March, starting at 7 a.m. And then we just had a very fruitful discussion with persons from the Ministry of Health and also the disaster management in the person of Brian Dyer, and also from the Ministry of Health, Dr. Nisbet, and also Mrs. Nadine Carter-Keynes, and they were talking about the coronavirus. And of course, that is one of the issues that we have been speaking about on a regular basis here over the last couple of weeks here on the island of Nevis. Now, we did say we are expecting additional persons as well. So, but before we do introduce the persons who are going to join us, let me.
Yes. Well, of course, Alexis, at the top of the show, we did. We should have mentioned this, that we are here tonight because, unfortunately, the regular hostee for On the Mark, the Honorable Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis, is absent. He's off island. We want to say good night to him and his lovely wife. The Premier is off island. He's in Grenada. He would have gone there to attend the funeral of his father-in-law. His wife's father passed away. And so that is why we are sitting in this evening. And so we want to say good night to and condolences to the Premier and his wife and the extended family, and hope that everything would have gone well this afternoon at this service. We also want to mention as well, Alexis, before we get into the next segment, that we were scheduled to start a series of town hall meetings tomorrow night at the Cotton Ground Community Center. But of course, due to precautionary measures and, staying in line with what we have been encouraged to do, and based on recommendations and suggestions, we have decided to postpone or cancel those town hall meetings. So persons who would have heard about the series of town hall meetings that were supposed to commence tomorrow evening at the Cotton Ground Community Center, those town hall meetings are off. And so please bear that in mind, that the town hall meeting for Cotton Ground Community Center tomorrow night and the other town hall meetings that were planned for every Thursday, those are on hold right now. They are on pause, and we want to thank you for your understanding, and we thank you very much for understanding that. So it's back over to you, Alexis.
Okay, thank you very much. That was your public service announcement.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Well, it's 20 minutes past 9 o'clock in the evening here on Von Radio. And of course, you're listening to On the Mark. And I did say that we have another segment for you this evening. We have persons from the Ministry and Department of Agriculture who have joined us in the persons of the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Huey Sargent. We also have the Director of Agriculture, Mr. Randy Elliott, and of course, Mr. Dijon Jeffers, who is an Extension Officer at the Department of Agriculture. I want to welcome you. Well, Huey, we have just under 45 minutes, so we'll go through as quickly as possible in terms of what we want to discuss this evening.
Good evening, and it's good to be here. It's very good to be here. I'm happy to have the team here with me. It has been a long day. I'm still in my work attire from before 8 o'clock this morning. We've had a very long day. We've had about 4 meetings with farmers and farmer groups, and the last one we completed about maybe about 10 minutes ago, and we've been meeting with farmers all day because we have decided, we came up with a plan to in response, of course, to the corona, which is the topic, the hot topic right now, to make sure and ensure that there is food in the country, that we can sustain the food production on the island, because we have realized, and if you look globally, we see countries literally closing their borders. We have notifications that trade has not closed yet. The transportation of people is closing. We've seen a situation in the United States where we have a wonderful term called shelter in place, where basically persons are being asked to just stay home. So we figure sometime down the line, if this continues, the people who pack the containers and so on, that will be affected.
They'll be sheltering in place.
Yes. So these are some of the issues that we have to take and so on. So that's what we've been doing all day. So I think the director is still just how he showed up to work before 7 this morning. So that is where. But before I go on, we recently had the passing of the person who was designated patron for this year, Mr. Joseph Lawrence, better known as Mingo. He has been at the cemetery for
Umpteen years.
The last number I heard was he has been there since the 1960s. And he was designated to be the patron. I think I was there when Mr. Elliott would have sought his consent to being a patron, and he did say, if I'm still here. And he was excited to be the patron. So he passed away, and it came as a shock, and I just want to say condolences to his family at this time, and the community of Brown Hill, and of course he's been at agriculture so long, his family, so condolences to everyone.
I want to join with you, Huey, in extending condolences to the family of the late Mingo. I would have worked with him when I was in agriculture for all those years, and I must say he was such a respectful and humble individual, always very, very willing to help, and had just so much respect for everyone, and, worked well with everybody. So very, very easygoing gentleman. And I was really taken aback when I heard of his passing as well. So I just want to say condolences to his entire family, especially his son, who I know well, and the extended family. And Mingo's passing would leave a void there at the cemetery. Everybody is accustomed to seeing Mingo there hanging out at the cemetery. And listen, Mingo took that cemetery very, very seriously. I could recall many times when I was there, when I was the communications officer, he would call me and said, well, people are, throwing garbage into the cemetery. Please make an announcement on the radio, And he was really such a lovely, lovely worker. You don't get those dedicated workers often. You don't find them coming along very often. And, I'm really very sorry that he would have passed and was not able to receive his due honor at the open day. So condolences to his entire family. And he was such a great person to work with.
Yes. Well, I too would like to join and express my condolences as well, Eric and Huey. You speak about the work that he did at the cemetery, and sometimes we take for granted what a cemetery should look like,
Yes.
because persons who are deceased, they are laid to rest there, and we sometimes forget that that should also be a sacred place and a place that should be managed properly. And I think Mingo would have certainly exemplified what we consider to be a dedicated and hard worker, and he did his best to ensure the persons who are laid to rest, they were resting in a clean and comfortable place, if I want to put it that way, even though they're not feeling. But it is certainly good for the family members to pass there and see the place, in good shape, and he would have done a tremendous job over the years. I only had exposure to Mingo for the last, about 7 years. I would have seen him in the past, but have never really interacted with him until I became the Minister of Agriculture. And of course, you go there. It's one of those persons you would love to work with every day, because, the back chat that you get from some of these young workers these days, he was one who just did what he was supposed to do. And may his soul rest in peace. And I want to express my condolences to the entire family as well. And indeed, we'll still find some way to pay homage and respect to
Mingo.
Mingo. So he's gone, yes, but of course we'll still find some way to do so. Yes, Randy?
Yes, good evening, Minister. Good evening, Mr. Minister.
Good evening.
It's nice seeing both of you here this evening. And I myself, on the behalf of my family and the department, we like to express condolences to Mingo also. He has been part of us, he's been part of the family. And as mentioned, he was a very easygoing guy, cool, make jokes. But one of the things that I always observe from Mingo is the only person who I know that have knowledge of the cemetery.
Yes.
The only
He knew
person
everybody's buried.
Yes, so I would just like to say condolences to the family, and the department stands with the family at this point in time. It has been a very long day for us at the department, and as Pierre Sargent said, we have been reaching out to our prime producers all today. We would have had some partnerships also with the Ministry of Health, Health Promotion Unit, as we outline our plan to them, but we had the staff from the Ministry of Health meeting with our farmers today in various areas to sensitize them of the COVID-19. And based on what we saw today, farmers actually came out in the numbers. We started with our poultry farmers this morning at 9 at the agriculture conference room. We had a good turnout from those farmers. We had one in Casebear with a group of farmers also, and we have farmers coming from Castle to Jessops at that meeting. And this afternoon we had one in the river with farmers from Nisbet Settlement to Gingerland coming to that meeting, and we just wrap up one with farmers from Gingerland to the bypass road. But the turnout and the feedback from the farmers, what we would have put out there to them in terms of the department's position as it relates to preparation and assistance to them, farmers are quite pleased with what we would have put forward. And I must say that we stand ready to partner with our farmers.
And then we have the Extension Officer, Mr. Jeffers.
It's been a long day.
Get a little closer. Get a little closer.
You're young and you're energetic, so you should not be complaining.
And that is sometimes a problem. The young ones fall by the wayside.
Well, as the director said before, we had well, I attended 4 meetings today. I was very surprised about the turnout that we had and the level of interest people actually show to the, we could say, little forum we had today. I was very shocked. I hope we could keep up this. Well, you know, I meet with the farmers at least once a month or something and continue with this.
That is important. But here then we can look at what you may have discussed today. What are some of the things you were discussing with the farmers or the stakeholders who you would have met with?
This whole process started yesterday afternoon. We had a heads of division meeting. Immediately after that, we had a strategy meeting where we identified between 13 and 15 crops that we looked at that are short term and that we could definitely put in that the crops ranging from 6 weeks to 3 months. We looked at some of the starches, we looked at the fruits and vegetables, and food that can sustain us in the event that we have closure to borders and so on, and we're not able to produce, we're not able to get the food from the supermarket shelves. We are definitely wanting to make sure that you can visit your local farmers and the crops that we have identified. We identified acreage, and we've done the estimates based on what we normally sell through our marketing division and those that are imported. And we did the acreages, and we said, you know, with this first planting, we should be able to achieve a specific amount of food. That is based on, as I said, the consumption pattern of the island. And then we have follow-up crops. And we're going to distribute these various crops among farmers, different farmers. So Mr. Evelyn might have an acre of melons to produce. 4 weeks after that, we're endeavoring to establish another acre of melons so that we have a continuous production for at least 6 months. And if it goes longer, we put in more resources to do that. And Mr. Elliott has the detailed list of what we're doing. I'm sure he can make that announcement as to give the listing of the crops that we have identified. And this, of course, is no limiting factor. We expect other crops to be produced because obviously those 13, everybody might not eat certain things, so we have to provide options for persons.
And just before you get into that, though, Randy, I was just wondering, because I know this has to be a continuous process, and you spoke about the acreages and so on. I am just wondering where we are in terms of the inputs, seeds, chemicals, that sort of thing, because of course we can't sustain the production unless we have the inputs for that.
Okay. Well, basically, Monday we made a run on Monday, island-wide sweep of evaluating the food stock on the island, and based on what we would have seen on the island, we see a number of vegetables, we see some legumes as a protein source, and we saw a number of starches. Some of the crops that were highlighted in larger volumes were bananas and plantains, papayas, pumpkins, lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers. Those are some of the crops that jumped out in larger numbers. We would have crunched our figures and looked at, based on what's actually present on the island and based on what within the field, based on our field production currently, we're looking at about 2 months of food supply that we have among our farmers. Bearing in mind, again, we were not able to visit all of our farms, but those that we visited from Prospect to New River, those are some of the figures that we came up with. So it's an indication that our farmers have been doing quite a bit. The annual open day scheduled for next week, so you had quite a bit of food in the ground also. But for us, it wasn't enough, and
We at the department, we don't wait until things happen. We always try to plan ahead. So we would have made orders already for our seed stock. Currently, they're here. We're just waiting for them to be transferred over from St. Kitts. So we have feedstock that could propel this program going forward. We looked at the 10 crops that we normally monitor at the department, and we look at, as Sergeant said, we look at the importation and we look at the production and the opportunity gaps, and we crunch all three to find, okay, this is actually what the country needs, bearing in mind that there's no panic. These are the crops that the country needs, and rather than just working with the 10, we add 5 additional crops onto the list because we want to ensure that our population have a balanced diet. So we add at least 5 additional crops on the list. During our meetings today, we indicated to our farmers that we'll be working with farmers who currently have lands readily available because we want to start to implement this program from next week. So we identify some of our farmers who have lands readily available. So we'll be working closely with those farmers up front. But one of the things that we also need to take note is that the first set of farmers, we're working with those farmers who are serious. Because over the years, you'd have seen some farmers that some persons growing crops would plant today and you don't see them in action until a couple of months down the road. But we are rolling out this program with farmers who are serious. And this was highlighted today in all the meetings, and farmers agreed to this rollout. That those who have not been serious, that they will have to come up to pace with those who are serious. Some of the crops that we would have identified, squash, tomatoes, melons, cucumbers, cabbage, carrots, string beans, black-eyed beans, sweet corn, honeydew melon, cantaloupe, sweet potato, cassava, pumpkin, eggplant. And we would have worked out a schedule in terms of the acreage, time period when they're going to be planted, our projected dates of harvesting, our projected yields, and the frequency. How often are we going to be planting these crops? Some say that by summer this would all be over. Some sources say this may be all over by summer. But what we at the department decided that we're going to do, we're going to run it for at least 6 months. We're running for 6 months. So even if this is over in the matter of months, for 6 months, we believe that at the end of 6 months, our farmers will be in the rhythm of working closer together, working more as it relates to crop forecasting, because this is basically what it is, crop forecasting, to ensure that any point in time we have this amount of food available on the island. Production would not be limited to this list because every farmer will not plant, for instance, squash. Every farmer may not have access to planting the number of squash that they want. So you may have a farmer that will probably not part of the program this round, but have squash planted. So, but what we want is that we want to ensure that at any given point in time, what we have on the list is the minimum amount on island. If there's surplus, then we could probably look at helping our brothers in nearby islands and so forth, if there's surplus. But we want to ensure that these are the minimum amounts. What we push into farmers, because some farmers keep asking, okay, what cost it is to them. And we would have indicated to farmers that as a means of propelling this program, that it will be of no cost to them. It will be of no cost to them. Everything will be fully funded through the department from the seedlings. They would have support with staff as it relates to assisting in ensuring that these plants are planted. Because like when you look at, for instance, sweet potatoes, we're looking at having 4 acres established at a given time. And the calendar might say you have only 2 planting days. So we need to ensure that we bring in that manpower to ensure that within those 2 days, these crops are planted. We will also be assisting our farmers as it relates to managing these crops also throughout the period. One of the agreements that we came with our farmers is that is to ensure, because we indicated to them that once our team is there working, they cannot be home relaxing on the bed, or they can't be by a bar having a glass of water or something. They have to be on the farm because it is a partnership between the department, ministry, and the farmers. It is to ensure that quality food is available to the general public. And one of the things that we agreed upon, even at in our last meeting, that there will be no price hike also. Because it doesn't make sense you have food and the people cannot afford to buy it. So these are some of the agreements that we came up with our farmers.
Can it be fair to say then, Randy, that the department will be minimizing its production to ensure that the farmers themselves are maximizing their production? Because you said we will be assisting the farmers in terms of planting the materials that they'll be planting and spending some time throughout those 6 months to ensure that the crops are taken care of, so we have an abundance. So I'm just wondering if we are, and this is not a bad thing, if we are minimizing what we're doing so that they can maximize their returns and so forth. So is that a fair way of looking at it?
Well, it is fair. One of the things the department will be doing, the department will be looking at alternative crops as it relates to production-wise. We'll be looking at alternative crop, more some of the long-term crops. Those are what the department will be looking at going forward.
Okay. I just thought I'll ask that because, of course, we are always about ensuring that the farmers themselves, because you have complaints all the time from the farmers that, or the department is competing with us, or I will dare say someone within the department is competing with the farmers, and that is something we want to minimize as we go along, because it's all about who will be there to sustain the production over a given period of time or for years to come. Because if someone is a bona fide farmer, you want to make sure that those bona fide farmers are given the chance to make money, because that's what they're there for. To produce, to feed us, yes, but ultimately to make money, because that is their trade.
Well, I want to jump in here. One of the things that we've been working on at the ministry is cost of production. We find that prices are at a certain point, and sometimes when you ask the farmers, well, how you arrive at this price, this is a price that may have come arbitrarily, it may be because of history. But then farmers having that to know, well, how much profit am I making? Can I sell the sweet potato for $3 a pound as opposed to $6 a pound? And we find that a lot of farmers do not know their cost of production. What it does, we have 13,000 people to feed. And if you produce your sweet potato and it is sold at $6, $7, $8 per pound, we don't necessarily have a lot of money. The ordinary man does not necessarily have a lot of money. And why sell your products out of the reach of the ordinary people who you are trying to feed at the same time? So what we're trying to do is, like, sometimes the prices are justified, but for a lot of the times, the prices, sometimes the farmers are making 400-500% profit. And then in the past we've had situations where I think it would have been immediately following Maria and Irma, we would have had a program where we would have made similar investments and so on, and it just didn't continue. And we were looking at that time for, okay, we would have made certain investments, all the yields that you made, you would have made the money. We were looking for you to reinvest in your farm, but then instead of reinvesting, you may have kept the money and then come back to the department and say, we need help again. It is not a sustained way for us to do farming and to ensure that we have food security on the island. Randy touched on a point about the sequencing of planting. Consistency. We've had supermarkets, we've had hotels come and say, we prefer to buy local. We want to buy local. But after 4 weeks of providing you with tomatoes and peppers, suddenly you're going to come this other week and say, I don't have any. What is that supermarket and hotel supposed to tell their clients who depend on them? So consistency has been an issue in the past, and we are seeking through this program, and I'm glad that the program is lasting 6 months, because as Mr. Elliott said, we want to get the farmers in that rhythm of continuous production, because we have to feed people. Suppose there's Corona or COVID 2.6 or something that comes up again. We need, I mean, every other country seems to want to say, my country first. So we have to be in that position where we are sustaining ourselves. And obviously when it comes to food and having that economic impact, when you as a consumer spend your money with your local farmer, that money stays in our local economy, and we have that multiplier effect. So I think we're going to, once we have the farmers buying into the program and adhering to the program, I think it is something that can yield quite a lot of success here on Nevis.
I just want to get something clarified. Randy, when you spoke, you said that the farmers were asking what is it going to cost them for the program, and I think that you said that it's going to cost them nothing. Are you telling us, and are you telling members of the general public, and are you telling all of the other farmers that are listening, that the Department of Agriculture will be providing all of the inputs in terms of seeds, seedlings, plowing, chemicals, everything? Are you going to be providing that free of cost?
Yes. For those farmers, last week we had a meeting with our tractor operators, and I would have directed them to ensure that we have as much lands prepared as possible, and that was last week Wednesday. Between last week Wednesday and yesterday, he already would have opened and closed 5 acres of land. Those were paid for. But now with this program going forward, those who don't have land and who will be coming into the program, their land prep would be free once they're coming into the program. Because at the end of it, we have to ensure we have food to feed our people. More so with this also, we'll be ramping up the extension services, where I would have committed myself to join the young team as it relates to going out with ensuring that our crops that we are invested in yield the volumes that we are looking for. It's a significant investment for us. When we crunch the figures this afternoon, you're looking over, and this will be like materials and manpower and technical support. You're looking at almost $100,000 for every cycle. At the end of it, you're looking for almost $600,000 in value that the ministry and department is investing into our farmers.
Well, I have to give commendation to the team there at Agriculture. And if Alexis is not going to blow the horn of the department and the ministry, I'm going to blow it for him, because the thing is, I mean, this is a massive injection for, I would call it a stimulus package for the farmers. And I don't think they would have ever experienced anything like this before. And I am happy to be part of an administration that is bringing this to the farmers. This is a caring government, and that is why you can get this stimulus package for the farmers and for the farming community, for the agriculture industry, from an administration that is led by the Concerned Citizens Movement. Alexis.
Well, let me say this, Eric. You hear how articulate Randy is, and you hear the PS, and you hear them talking about these things. I've given them the chance to do what is necessary to ensure that we are living up to our mandate.
Definitely.
But here's what it is. I don't think in your time or prior to you, I don't know, but I've seen tractors on the road on a Saturday going somewhere to plow. I think you had some tractors on the road last Saturday. I'm almost certain I passed tractors on the road.
Tractors on the road.
And I don't think they were going to...
Sunday
also.
Yeah.
I was going to say they were going to a tractor rally. They were going to a farm somewhere. But the thing is, all that is being said here this evening, all that is being done from the department standpoint. Now, we have a situation that is looming before us where we may have some scarcity. It presents an opportunity for us to look within and do the things internally what we have to do to ensure that we need to do to get agriculture to that sustainable level. Because I've made a point in the past. Now, if, for example, a particular supermarket is buying, let's say, cabbages from a supplier in Miami, over a period of time they develop that relationship with that supplier where they start to get peppers, sweet peppers, or maybe carrots or some other product. So over time, you find that market is moving off island, so to speak, so that these things are being imported. Right now, the opportunity is available to us to start to hold on to a particular share of the market here. Now that there is an unfortunate situation that is on the horizon, we can see some hope in that, so that we can do what is being explained here to us this evening, that the director would have just imparted, whereby we are now incentivizing all farmers to plant more. We ourselves are participating in that, so that when we get to the next 6 months, farmers are energized, farmers are in tune with what we are trying to accomplish, and then we can leave them on their own to do what is necessary. And it is important, you raised the point, Huey, whereby we would have done something similar back in 2017. 2017, I think it was, somewhere in November of 2017, where we had the assistance of CARDI and ICA, and also the Republic of China Taiwan Technical Mission, where they would have provided us with these seedlings and we would have distributed them to our farmers. We were hoping that after they would have planted and reaped those crops, then the money that they made, they would have plowed back into their farming or into their farms, and then it would be in a continuous process. But it was not done, unfortunately. Hopefully this time around, though, with all that is being invested, they will certainly realize some significant return that they can then put back into their farm, and then they become buoyant as a result, and we can move on to other things.
And just to add as well, I'm happy you spoke about the cost of production thing as well, because with this incentive being provided by the Department of Agriculture, I would assume that with the farmers getting so many concessions, total concession here, that the pricing could be adjusted in some way. Because I know in the past when I was there, members of the general public often complained, particularly around open day. They said, I think at open day the prices should drop, but I'm not knocking the farmers, but the farmers hardly ever complied. And the members of the general public always said, well, listen, we are patronizing the farmers all through the year, and for these 2 days of the year, we think the farmers should give us a little, discount. So I'm hoping that with this program, with the Department of Agriculture providing practically all of the inputs to the farmers for free, that we could have some adjusting in the pricing, bearing in mind that we are going through practically a crisis here on the island where the spending capacity of most of our nationals and residents would be cut. Persons are getting the hours and so on cut, so they're earning less. And with that in mind, you're earning less. It means that you have less to spend as well. And so we are hoping, and I'm guessing with the encouragement from you guys in agriculture, that the farmers can rise to the challenge as well.
And that's definitely the idea that we're doing. And in addition to that, we've had our monthly farmers market, where we are providing that opportunity for farmers to provide food on a monthly basis at a lower price, so that our consumers, our local population, can definitely benefit from these initiatives.
So we've been doing some good things at the department. We have tractors on the road. There was a point in time we had just one. Right now we have about 3 of them operating, and there is one that is out of service that we hope to get back on track shortly. We also have a backer that we would have received from the Republic of China Taiwan. Also, in the next 6 months at least, we should have additional storage capacity.
Yes, we have begun construction on a chilled area we should have, I think, six compartments, and obviously all fruits and vegetables cannot be stored at the same temperature. So the idea is to be able to have at least a month, I think a month to 6 weeks of food storage, because sometimes you get a big crop, and you're not able to. The country only can consume a certain amount of food in a particular time frame. So we're hoping that with this new chill facility, we can extend the life of our food. And of course, we have our agro-processing. One of the things I think Randy spoke about today in one of the meetings was like pumpkins. We have an abundance of pumpkins right now. And I think we've been brainstorming about like we can make pumpkin into mash. We grind it or grate it and store it. It's a lot less bulky, and that is how you use a pumpkin anyway, because you're going to have to grate it to put it in your pancakes and your soup and that sort of thing. So we're trying to find creative ways to be able to extend the shelf life of food here on the island of Nevis.
Well, agriculture is always an exciting topic to discuss. I mean, we have just about 5 minutes left, and of course you're listening to On the Mark. And, we didn't accept any calls this evening. We looked at tonight as a night when we'll disseminate information, and we had some good discussions earlier. We're still having some discussions here, and we can go on until 11 o'clock tonight, I'm sure. But what I want to say is that you mentioned the open day. We're not taking any decisions this evening, but of course we have a challenge ahead of us here, and of course some decisions will have to be made. So shortly we'll have to be informing the general public as to what we'll be doing with open day. We're not taking decisions this evening, but of course we know what challenges we have. But you had any comment to make at this point? Through your discussions with your stakeholders, your farmers, what were they thinking?
They're thinking, it was mixed. Some farmers were saying yes, some farmers were saying no. We do not have any cases of coronavirus, COVID-19 here on the island. But we accept that persons are
Cautious.
And one of the wonderful terms I heard, social distancing.
Yep.
And I mean, we have already taken the decision that there will be some adjustments in terms of open day. We're not talking cancelling or postponing. We understand that, I mean, the show has to go on.
Well, the thing is, persons have been preparing for the open day. There are lots of meat products. There are a lot of food items.
And we didn't touch the meat products that
we haven't touched that because hundreds of thousands of pounds, I'm sure.
Yes. So, as I say, we're not talking cancelling or postponing, but we'll find creative ways, because at the end of the day, persons have been out there producing and working hard for 6 months, for 3 months, for however long with their crops, and we have farmers and the livestock and so on. So
I know it's a difficult one.
Yes.
Yeah, I did say hundreds of thousands of pounds of meat. I think I exaggerated that one, but hundreds of pounds is probably well worth it. But ladies and gentlemen, the time is nigh when we'll have to say it's the end of the show. And of course, we've had a tremendous evening here on the Mark tonight. We had tonight, of course, Minister Evelyn.
Yes.
Or do you just say yes?
Yes, it's always a pleasure, Alexis, to be here co-hosting with you. And of course, I just want to say good night to the folks once again, and remember to tune in again tomorrow at 1 o'clock when there's a repeat of the On the Mark program. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Okay, and it was indeed my pleasure hosting this evening. I want to thank you, Pierre Sargent and Director Elliott, and also Mr. Jeffers for coming by. And also want to thank all of the previous guests that we would have had here. That made tonight a wonderful evening. A night when we just talk. Some results are there to show for it, I'm sure, too. I want to invite everyone to tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. To 8:60 a.m. the Caribbean's only powerhouse for rebroadcast, of this program. And of course, it was indeed my pleasure once again. And we repeat this show next week. Next week, God's willing, we'll be back here at 8 p.m. To have another show of this magnitude. Thank you very much for listening, and have a pleasant night's rest.
opinions. The seating program was solely those of the participants and do not